General Math students, in the previous video we were looking at arithmetic sequences as difference equations. In this video we're going to do the same but with geometric sequences. So the notation's very similar. We still detail the very first term in a sequence. So the first term in this sequence is 5, so we put that here. Now of course with a geometric sequence, we have a common ratio between terms. So you can see that to get from one term to the next here, we're multiplying by 3 each time. So down here, we'll reflect that by multiplying the current term by 3 to get to the next term. So we always have a number multiplying by the current term, rather than adding or subtracting from it as we did in geometric sequences. So let's try these ones here. In this sequence, we start with 5. The first term is 5, and we're going to multiply by 2 to get to the next term, which is 10. Then 2 by 10 is 20, 40, and finally 80. So after seeing that one, you might want to pause the video and try the next couple and then see what I get. Okay, so with this next sequence, we're going to start with 1000. That's the first term, and we multiply by a half each time. So 1000 times 1/2 is 500. So we're just going to halve the sequence each time until we get to there, and there's the first 5 terms. Okay, this next sequence is interesting. If you've already tried this one, I wonder what result you got. We start with a 6. And we're going to multiply by -5, which gives -30. Now, interesting here, when we multiply -5 by 30, we've got a negative times a negative. So I should say -5 by -30. That's going to give us a positive result of 150. Okay, then we're going -5 by positive 150, which is 750, I believe. Yep, that seems right. And that goes back to being -750 because we got negative by positive. So what we see here is that we get an alternating sequence. So the next, we're going to do 5 by 750, which I'll just quickly put into the calculator just to make sure I definitely get the right number for you guys, which is 3750. Now of course that's negative by negative, so it goes back to being positive. So even if I put the correct numbers in of -5 by -750, see, it becomes positive again. So 3750. So if you have a negative common ratio in these, you see that that alternating sequence as we saw earlier with sequence rules. Okay, we're going to write down the rule for these sequences. So we're doing the opposite to what we did earlier or in the previous page. So we've been given a sequence, we're going to write down the rule from that. Okay, so what's the first term in this sequence? It's 4. So T1 equals 4. And to get from 4 to 12, we would multiply by 3 and so forth. So to get to the next term, we take the current term and we multiply it by 3. So we're going to write it like this. I recommend you write it like this as well. This is what your teachers will be expecting, is that we're going to take 3 by and times the common term and write it like this, 3Tn. One thing I haven't mentioned on this page that I should have is this new expression here of a recursive form. Okay, now that means as a difference equation. So earlier we saw the word explicit form, so that was for a sequence rule. Recursive form is for a difference equation. So you've got to be ready for that term in order to understand that means a difference equation. Right, you might want to pause the video here and try this next one on your own, then I'll have a go at it. Okay, so the first term in this sequence is 128. To get to the next term from the current term, we're going to halve it, so we multiply by 0.5. Now, if you did something like this, Tn divided by 2 or Tn over 2, now I know what you're saying. I suppose I'd probably let it go myself, but look, what we want to do is show a multiplication, so I highly recommend you write 0.5 Tn, or I suppose you could write that as a fraction like this, 1/2 Tn. That's okay too. Okay, last one here. You might have already tried this. If you haven't, perhaps I'll give you a chance to pause and try it on your own, then I'll have a go at it. Okay, so here we've got the sequence rule, and we're going to, so that, well, currently, actually, I'll change the color of that. That's the sequence rule in explicit form. We're going to put that as a difference equation, which is in this recursive form we referred to earlier. So we're going to change it to recursive form. Right, so we can actually do this relatively easily without even writing down the first 5 terms of the sequence, but we'll do that anyway. So clearly the first term of the sequence is a 2, and to get from one term to the next, we're going to multiply by that common ratio of 5. So 2 times 5 is 10, times 5 is 50, times 5 is 250, times 5 is, what do we get there? 1,250. Righto, so the first term of this sequence is 2. To get to the next term from the current term, we multiply this term by 5. So 5 Tn plus 1 equals 5 Tn will do. There you go. Okay, have a look at the description for the video and try some of those questions.